Hi, I'm Chris Feurt from the Wells Reserve Coastal Training Program, and I'm going to share with you the story today of the Marshes for Maine's Future project. We have a very long, complicated name that is collaborative science to support marsh conservation and management decisions in Maine. And we're testing a knowledge to action model for applying geospatial science. The Wells Reserve team for the project is myself, Jake Amon, our stewardship coordinator, and Jason Goldstein, our research coordinator. So the purpose of the project, which was developed by a group of Maine marsh managers who already use geospatial products in their work, and they use geospatial products to identify and prioritize potential marsh conservation areas, to evaluate restoration strategies, to develop projects using nature-based solutions, and to manage wetland habitats for biodiversity conservation. The other thing that led this project was a 3-year-long project that was done in southern Maine called Climate Ready Coast. This was a stakeholder-driven project looking at habitats on the coast in the 10 southern Maine communities, doing a vulnerability assessment and then developing a regional resilience plan for those towns. One of the primary considerations was protecting salt marshes, and the Marshes for Maine's Future project built upon the stakeholder-driven project to take it to the next level for salt marshes in Maine. So one of the keys to this project was finding a practitioner-focused scientist who was very committed to applying science to management. And to deal with our Marshes for Maine's Future project, we collaborated with Dr. Neil Ganju, who's a research oceanographer at the Woods Hole Coastal and Marine Science Center. He and Kate Ackerman have spent the last couple of years working with our team, both to develop the proposal and then apply their geospatial tools to marsh management in Maine. This is the list of the 14 partners on the Marshes for Maine's Future project. We began working together in the fall of 2022, developing the proposal, and then have continued to work since funding on implementing the ideas for protecting marshes throughout the state of Maine by using geospatial tools developed by USGS. The method we used for bringing people together and working together was the collaborative learning approach. We used this approach during proposal development, during 4 knowledge sharing workshops, and we plan to use it on the project capstone. This method has been used by the Wells Reserve for over 20 years. It combines systems thinking, adult learning principles, and conflict management science into one process for facilitating learning. The project introduced marsh managers to 3 USGS geospatial products that link landscape integrity with coastal hazards. The 3 tools are the Restoration Decision Matrix, the Marsh Lifespan Calculator, and the Coastal Change Likelihood Tool, all developed by USGS, but not widely used right now in Maine at the beginning of the project, and our goal was to use and test these 3 tools in the state. The Restoration Decision Matrix uses landscape scale measurements of elevation, unvegetated, vegetated ratios in the marsh, and sediment supply to catalog marsh areas in terms of, is this a marsh you want to protect, restore, monitor for future change, or evaluate as far as decision making about what to do with the marsh. Here's an example of how the tool plays out in a landscape. So the marsh managers applied this tool along the state and projects they were working on to see what areas should be prioritized for conservation, which areas might be the best for management change, and which others might be ones that wouldn't be a top priority for restoring unless there were certain species that were important to protect. Another tool that we used on the project was the Marsh Lifespan Calculator. This is a sediment-based lifespan metric, and it quantifies how long the vegetated portion within a marsh can supply the entire marsh with enough material to keep up with sea level rise. It's not an estimate outright of how long a marsh will stay in place, just how long a marsh will exist to lose elevation to the area that exports sediment in response to sea level rise. So this was another tool used by marsh managers. And the third tool we used was the Coastal Change Likelihood Tool. This is another USGS product that can be used for decision-making in salt marshes. It used over 20 existing data sets from a variety of organizations to describe the landscape in a marsh and how likely coastal hazards are to impact that landscape over a 10-year period. The Coastal Change Likelihood was a huge update to this geospatial tool, which was a coastal vulnerability index. In the next slide, you'll see how much more detail the new tool has that can be used to apply to Maine marshes. Now the tool is much more sensitive and can be used for predictions over the next decade. So as we use these three geospatial tools, each person in the partnership developed a project in a marsh that they were working on in real time and would apply these geospatial tools to over time. We had a series of 3 workshops. The first workshop was virtual, and it was designed to educate the Maine managers about how the tools had been used in the Chesapeake Bay and Chincoteague Bay marshes. The next virtual workshop was also virtual, and it was the data behind these tools. Most of the geospatial tool users were very interested in the reliability and the integrity of the data. This entire workshop was devoted to their questions about how the data was relevant for Maine. And in the third workshop, everyone on the team had a chance to apply the 3 tools in real time with the USGS partners in the room. And at the end of a 2-day workshop, they developed a case study for their marsh in Maine and how the tools could be used to prioritize conservation, management, and land use decisions related to the marshes. So on September 18th and 19th, we are having the capstone project where each of the partners will use the data and tell the story of applying it. We have a special invitation for reserves from Virginia to Maine to attend this workshop. We have funding in the grant to support that. And this data set, which we used in Maine, is currently available for all the states from Virginia to Maine. And we'd like to share our story for how to use that data for real-time marsh management.